Could you hear the winds change? And here she is, Linda Seymour. Thank you, everyone. I've got to say, that is quite an overwhelming feeling, seeing everybody sitting there and giving me a clap for democracy. I just want to say that was windy Dharawal country, and I'm first going to start off by giving acknowledgement to this beautiful land that we are standing on. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we think deeply about the Aboriginal people who have walked on this land for tens of thousands of years before us. That's something I have learnt along this journey, how very, very important that is to acknowledge and understand Australia's ancient history. It's a wonderful place. Now I'm going to start off by saying, don't be afraid. This is democracy. You are sitting beside people you may have not voted the same before. And that's how we like it. We don't care how you voted in the past. We care very much how you vote in the future. People are going to be here for all sorts of reasons today. You may be motivated by climate, you may be motivated by a vaccination stance, you may be motivated by democracy and integrity itself. That's what I'm motivated by. Now, what I do need to say is this is an extraordinary honour to be standing here. 18 months ago, I was not that person. I should not have been standing here. I was entirely the wrong person, and I did not anticipate that it would be me. In fact, I only put my hat in the ring on the 1st of September. I found out 2 weeks ago it was me. You'll know how recently we found out. I've only just registered a website. So the reason it wasn't me in the first place was because I was coming from a place of anger. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove adversarial politics. Adversarial politics gets us to this place of polarised politics where people do no longer want to talk. Very convenient for the two-party system. Very convenient if we look away. If there's another scandal on the horizon, it's very difficult to engage. Early on in this journey, somebody said to me, Linda, people don't want problems. We've got enough of our own. We want solutions. That resonated with me really strongly. I mean, as she said, who quotes Martin Luther King at a speech? I do. She said, Martin Luther King did not stand up and say, hey, I've got a problem. He stood up and he said, I had a dream. And with a dream or with a passion or the will to do something better, people will follow you. And that's what we are about. We want to change and shift this polarised political landscape into something we can all be proud of. I started angry because of Craig Kelly. He went into our daughter's school and he said climate change is not real. That was in 2013, and I've been a watcher ever since. I don't know, has anybody travelled to Craig Kelly's old Facebook page? It wasn't a great place. It was not a great place. And 2016 election, I was dismayed. 2019 election, I was mortified. So I was the wrong person to represent this electorate if I was angry. But what I realised over the course of this is that Craig Kelly is not the problem. Craig Kelly and lack of action on climate change is a symptom of a broader problem. The broader problem that we have is an electorate that is disengaged. And that's not the fault of the electorate. I actually think for your mental health, it's quite a good place to be. I think that's quite sensible to disengage, because when you engage via Twitter, via Facebook, let's face it, it's not pleasant. The last months, it's been hard to watch. If you're here for climate, you would have watched COP26 and felt quite devastated by our response. If you're interested in integrity and corruption, take your pick. Yeah. But we want to do things different. We don't want to get out there and be angry and say, they're all idiots. We want to say, well, they might be behaving like idiots, but we are not. We can change this. So that's how We Are Hughes was born. So you probably need to know a little bit about me. You've seen me behind a screen, maybe driving around with Julia Zamira virtually. But if I'm standing in front of you and I'm saying, I would like your vote, I would like you to come on this journey with us, you'll see that I say us a lot, because I've been speaking about the candidate for such a long time, and we, that for me to transfer it to me is an unusual and uncomfortable position, actually. It's not something I'm used to, and it's not something I plan on doing. This is very much we. We have created an environment for us all to go to Canberra. So anyway, okay, so I was born in Lillypilly. Well, I wasn't born in Sutherland Hospital, brought up in Lillypilly. My dad was a lithographic dot etcher. It was a brand new profession when he started. By the time he finished, that job didn't exist anymore. But I grew up in a family that wasn't afraid to talk about politics. My dad, a classic line from my dad was, unions, can't live with them, can't live without them. They saved his skin when he was young. But then as a businessman, he found it tricky, but he would never give up on it because he respected those people that looked after him. So we grew up with a very grounded understanding that maybe things weren't perfect, but when people look after you, you don't give up on them. So that's my background. I met my husband, this lovely, very lucky man here. And we lived in the city for a time. And then we moved to Bonnet Bay to raise our beautiful children, who are over there. Who are two of my greatest teachers. So my work history, to give you some comfort, is I work in architecture. My first job was at Sutherland Shire Council. My first drawing was of Miranda Fair. I did drafting at St George TAFE. I was the only girl, but I loved it. This is the thing that I loved. It wasn't encouraged at school, so I went to TAFE. The next obvious step for me, and the step I wanted to take, was architecture. As it was, I went over to the UK for a bit of a gap year, and I landed myself quite an extraordinary job. That job was in this new fandangled thing called architectural technology. From that, I ended up lots of awards, and I ended up working on Olympics all over the world. So this is not to tell you that I'm going to design you a stadium, but it's to tell you, to give you confidence that I have worked with all levels of government, internationally and locally. Part of architecture is understanding a built form and an outcome, and there are many, many stakeholders that get a good building built. There should be, I want that to give you comfort, because this is the role that I have played in my career, which has been talking to all levels, communicating what that building is, and working with all stakeholders. I've loved my job. I have absolutely loved it, and I feel very lucky to have done what I've done. But I'm also happy to now leave the new technology to new people. I'm fine with that. I'm fine to move into this new atmosphere, because we are going to Canberra. We know that, don't we? This is not... So, I hope you're confident I can do the job. I hope that walking the talk for the last year shows you my conviction. I have absolute conviction, and I have pride, and I love this place that we live in. We have all chosen to live here for one reason or another, but that binds us. The fact we live in this community together binds us. And the fact that we're all here today, that binds us, irrespective of how we voted in the past. We all know at our core that something is wrong, and we together can change this. So what does that mean? What does it look like, an independent in Hughes? I'm going to take you back very quickly, and I'm going to then talk about the Voices movement and Dennis Ginnivan, who was at our very first event for We Are Hughes. The reason that I came to this position on switching things around and not being angry was I went to a climate rally in Canberra. At that rally, given the architecture in me, there were soft bodies, warm people running around wanting to be heard, and there behind us was this static building. On that stage stood Darlie Stegel, John Hewson, ex-leader of the Liberal Party, Greg Mullins, talking without the confines of party politics, and they were just reasonable. They just spoke reasonable things. And I thought, oh, hello, John Hewson. Who knew? He was terrific. After that, so there we had people, we had the building, we had another stage with politicians talking to us, but then something really profound happened. I went down to the Aboriginal Tent Embassy for a community building exercise. This was the most simple and profound thing that has happened, and this is the core and the start of this movement. The process was 3 Indigenous speakers got up and talked. There was probably about 60 of us sitting around in a circle. They told us their stories about traditional land management, intergenerational harm, all sorts of, some very giving, some of it quite powerful. But then we went into groups, and in these groups, every single person was heard, groups of about 6, and then somebody got up and reported back. What that was an information loop. We heard people who were experts on their own history talking to us. Then they wanted to hear what we thought. So we sat down, we had a very dignified conversation where all the quietest voices were heard. And then somebody had to stand up and talk, and that was me from my group. And I said, after the bushfires, our devastating, catastrophic bushfires, I said, I'm from Hughes, Craig Kelly's electorate. You can imagine the reception. I made a promise on that day to do whatever I could to turn this situation around. And this is it. But I worked out that voices needed to be heard. And to anyone that listened to me when I came back, I was staying at my sister's house who lives in Canberra. I came home and I cried. I said, that was the most profound thing I have ever been in. This was the most simple thing. There was a structure, there was a stage, and then there we were, again, the architect, in an open space, in a tent. No walls, just people communicating. And it was ridiculously powerful. So that was it. Anyone spoke to me after that, I said, we have to talk to people. That's what we have to do, because people on the ground aren't divisive. We're not angry people. And then I found out that Indi had changed a whole electorate doing just that. And I was put in contact with Dennis Ginnivan, who's going to speak with you today. If you don't know, Indi now has Helen Haines. Is everybody aware of who Helen Haines is? A wonderful representative for her community. She's not our independent, and decisions that she makes will not necessarily be reflective of ours, but there will be a lot of decisions that are the same. So I took a lot of inspiration from Indi and what the Voices movement has done. And I went, beauty, I'm not dreaming. This can happen, this can work. So we went for it, and we conducted kitchen table conversations, and we went to the markets. We reached people as best we could in COVID land. It hasn't been smooth sailing, but it has been worth it standing here today. So what does our office look like? Dennis will come and talk to you and give you some of that inspiration that I felt from Dennis as well. This is really important, because this is how we get there. We don't get there for me telling you what to do. We get there for you putting your own creativity into this. We get there by you being you. That's how we get there. This is not politics as usual, this is different. This is something that we all embrace, because we all go to Canberra. Actually, quite literally we do go, because we hire buses for the maiden speech and then we all go to Canberra. But what does our office look like? You know what Craig Kelly's office looks like. You know how he communicates. You'll get a bit of a survey. You'll never hear the results of it. Our office will be very, very different. It will be full of passionate people that care about our community, that want to do good things. We will immediately, because we have the potential for the balance of power here, or as Karen says, the power of balance, we know that people everywhere want action on climate change. We will get Zali's bill through, or we will at least get it tabled, and we will look at it and we will work with that bill that already exists. Importantly, Helen Haines' Australian Federal Integrity Commission bill. That is fundamental, absolutely fundamental. Because as I said before, take your pick and corruption. It is outrageous where we are at the moment. that our political class are operating, and I will call it the government of the day, is operating with impunity. They do whatever they want. I mean, I can't reflect on this last year because there is too much that's gone on, but just the fact that they never called Craig Kelly out, that there is no code of conduct, that he could just do and say whatever he wanted and undermine our public health and undermine our social cohesion with no care in the world. He's there now representing us with the UAP banner. I notice he hasn't changed his colours to yellow in the paper. Has anyone noticed that? Just in case people didn't notice. You all think he's still blue, don't you? Yeah. Well, we know he's not. So it's very important that we tell people that that person is not who you think he is. Where did I go? I said Craig Kelly, my head's gone. So look, Craig Kelly is the catalyst, but he's not the continuing motivation. Like I said, Craig Kelly is a symptom. The problem starts at the top. We need to change it by getting good people to Canberra, and I will take that. I am a good person. But I'm not that. Doesn't mean I'm a pushover. I will stand up for us. I will do what needs to be done. I've never been to, I've been Parliament before, but I've not been a politician, so there will be learning. There will definitely be learning, and I will know how to say sorry. I think our government has a case of the Fonz. Does anyone? Some people know what I mean. Okay, for those that don't know, there was a show called Happy Days. Fonzie could not say sorry. He could not say I was wrong. Our government has a case of the Fonz, and we need to change that. So when we get in, we have our wonderful office. We will continue to talk to our electorate. We will continue to bring in informed speakers, because there's no point me trying to tell you that, hey, I'm a climatologist or an epidemiologist. I'm not. We will bring experts in. We will continue to do that. We will continue engaging with our electorate the whole time we are there, and we will take your creativity too. We will listen to you. That is so important. We will continue with the same methods if we are Hughes, but we'll just get better and we'll get stronger. Quite literally, if we get to Canberra, defeatist, when we get to Canberra, and I'm talking about the climate and I'm talking about the planet here, we can literally change the world.